Alright, hi everybody. I'm going to try something different. I'm going to do it in my car. And let's talk a little Pavlov, shall we? We got ourselves Pavlov 101, alright? What do you know about Pavlov? Pavlov was a physiologist. He was not a psychologist. He had no interest in psychology. And in fact, a little background, Pavlov was doing work on digestion, and he created a procedure. See, now, the problem is the process of digestion is an active system. It's it's an interesting system in the body, and the only knowledge that researchers had at this point on the digestive system was on dead animals. And it doesn't really make a lot of sense to study a living system on a dead animal, right? An active system. So he invented a procedure in which he would do a surgical technique on the dog, cut open their stomach, implant little tubes that came out so that they could measure stomach secretions, and then the dog would be allowed to heal from the surgery, recover, and then you could study the digestive system on an active and alert animal, okay, rather than on a dead animal. So he wins a Nobel Prize in about 1904 for this. So in the process of his work, he starts to notice some things, right? He's doing some work with his dogs, and if you give them this much food, how much stomach secretions, things like this. And at some point, the dogs start to secrete even before you give them food, okay? In other words, on days that they're about to be studied, the dogs would hear the clicking keys in the locks or something, and their stomachs would start to secrete juice. And Pavlov's like, what the heck? And, all right, I guess it's nothing. And then a couple weeks later, the door to the actual laboratory would open, and that when the dogs would start to secrete. And then later on, footsteps coming down the hallway, and the dog starts to secrete these stomach gases, and he doesn't know what to do. He's calling them psychic secretions, okay? He called them psychic secretions. He just didn't get it. What the heck is this thing? And after a while, he realized that he was entering the realm of psychology. In the next slide, so I'm going to talk a little bit about why Pavlov had such a low opinion of psychology because of the state of where psychology was, especially in America. But we'll come to that next time. So now here's what Pavlov does. He talks about the conditioned reflex, okay? The conditioned reflex is learned. Whenever you see the word conditioned, it's essentially learned. A learned reflex, okay? There are some reflexes we don't have to learn. If we hit your knee with a hammer, well, hopefully a rubber mallet, not actual hammer. Sorry for you, buddy. No, a little rubber mallet, and then your knee goes up, right? It's a reflex. You don't have to learn it. We're going to talk about unconditioned reflexes in a minute. Condition is one that is only present because of learning, okay? And so here's what he is later going to find is that objects that are associated with meat powder are going to lead to the same types of secretions as meat will, okay? And so an unconditioned reflex, in fact, you know what? Here's all these terms. Feel free to study them at will. I'm moving into the real stuff. You go back and memorize these as necessary. Okay? So here's what happens. Now, before conditioning, when you put meat into a dog's mouth, the dog drools. Okay? That's an unlearned reflex. That's similar to if I hit your knee with a rubber mallet, your knee goes up. Bang. Okay. It's unlearned. The dog never had to learn that food in the mouth equals, salivation. So that's the unconditioned reflex. Unconditioned reflex. Then at the beginning of this experiment, what Pavlov is going to do, he's going to ring a bell. Ding, ding, ding. And the dog goes, What? What is that? Dog can hear it, but it has no meaning. Okay, so the dog orients or something like that. And so, in fact, as you can see in this bottom corner here, the little picture of the bell is called NS, or neutral stimulus. Then what's going to happen is Pavlov, in his classic study, is going to go ding, 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 and then give the dog meat. Okay? And when Pavlov goes ding, 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 and gives the dog meat, the dog drools. Well, why is the dog drooling? Because you just gave him meat, stupid. I don't see a picture of meat here, but you got to pretend there's a picture of meat in the middle of this picture. I don't know where that thing went, okay? And so, ding, 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 meat, drool. Ding, 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 meat, drool. Ding, 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 meat, Drool. The dog is drooling because you put meat in his mouth, right? The little bell that you stuck at the beginning is just is. Well, the dog learns to associate, or in more complicated terms, actually, the dog finds that the presence of the bell allows it to predict that something important is about to happen, namely food is going to come in. So therefore, the dog starts to salivate in response to the bell in anticipation of the food it believes it will receive. And so after conditioning, if you just play the bell, ding, 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 the dog drools. Now at this point, the dog's drooling in response to the bell is now called a conditioned reflex. It is a learned reflex. It is a reflex that only occurs because of the learning that occurred in the dog. Okay? Well, here's a silly example just to kind of show that classical conditioning is not just dogs, all right? Just so you know this is real stuff. So here's an example that was put together actually by a textbook author, and he wrote that, here's the thing, there's an unlearned reflex. Passionate kissing leads to sexual arousal. Oh, baby. Ooh la la, baby. You don't have to learn it. No learning involved. It just is. Okay? Now, the author of these particular, this example, says in college he had a girlfriend that really liked onion-flavored potato chips. Ooh, loved them. So, as she's coming in for the kiss, what does he do? He smells onions. Onions, kiss, oh baby, ooh la la. And he has sexual arousal. Why is he aroused? Because of the passionate kiss. Got nothing to do with the onions, right? Oh baby, ooh la la. Now, after doing that for a while, guess what happens when he now smells onion breath? Okay, he's getting his freak on. But now this is a conditioned reflex, right? It is only present because of the fact that a specific learning and a specific association has been formed between the onion breath and the passionate kiss. It is that association that is causing this conditioned response to occur, or conditioned reflex. Okay? As another example, and this one is my example, second grade, St. Joe's Elementary School. It was Wednesday. Wednesday is chocolate milk day. Only day of the week you get chocolate milk. I was not feeling good that day, but it's chocolate milk day, and I am getting my chocolate milk. And I remember second grade, drank that chocolate milk, and maybe 20 minutes later, oh man, I was sick. It was all over the ground. So here's the deal. The flu leads to vomiting. This is the unlearned reflex, right? Everybody knows flu leads to vomiting. Unconditioned stimulus, unconditioned response. I had 1% chocolate milk, then flu led to vomiting. So just like in Pavlov's example, the 1% chocolate milk is served by the same role. It serves the same role as the bell does. It's initially just a stimulus, but because of its pairing with the flu, it now all by itself has a property to elicit the vomiting. Now the vomiting is a conditioned response. If you give me 1% chocolate milk to this day, I mean it's just whoosh. It's you get the pink powder ready, dude, because the janitors clean up in aisle 9, man. Don't mess with that stuff. I can't do that. Okay? So, Pavlov kind of had some interesting things. He was first and foremost a physiologist. Never forget that. So he's kind of had some interesting brain explanations for what was going on, and he kind of I can't give too many details here, but he had some kind of a strange theory where he sort of referred to excitation in the brain. When the bell goes ding ding ding, it starts a ripple in the brain. A ripple, sort of like dropping a stone into a pond, and then the ripples, and of course the ripples get smaller as they go. And he used this analogy to describe how two different ideas would associate based on the rippling here. And so the cortical mosaic was this word he would use for the pattern of points of excitation and inhibition that characterize the cortex at any given moment. And so he was really a big fan of this idea that learning is a process of turning on, shutting off, excitation, inhibition. Quite interesting. Pavlov had a lot of things to say about other stuff, which are incredibly, incredibly important, like generalization. Generalization is a tendency. See, once you learn, once a dog learns, ding ding ding, meat drool, ding ding ding, meat drool, ding ding ding, meat drool. Now you go, ding. No, wait, do one at a slightly different frequency. Ding ding ding. What's it all gonna do? Well, chances are, according to generalization here, the dog's going to salivate, but not nearly as much as it would to ding ding ding. See, now that's where you're going to get maximum salivation. But to ding ding ding, you're going to get some salivation, but not nearly the degree. And ding ding ding, I don't know how you're going to make that bell, but you're going to get some salivation, but not nearly as much. And so it shows this generalization gradient. That is, the most responding you're going to get is to the actual stimulus that you learned and associated, but similar stimuli are going to get similar responses. He also had a lot of other things like extinction, for example, and extinction is the idea that, and I mean this is hugely important, that just, you know, if you continue to remember every single thing you've ever learned in your life, you're in trouble, because I'll tell you, things that used to be true in the past may not be true today, and it's your job to forget that past stuff and move on, right? And so what happens in Pavlov's example, you go ding 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 meat drool, ding 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 meat drool, ding 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 meat drool, ding 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 meat drool. Now ding ding ding, and the dog goes drool. There's no meat. Ding ding ding, and the dog drools. There's no meat. And you do this over and over and over, and every time you go ding ding ding, the dog is going to drool just a little bit less than the time before. And this process of stopping the salivation is what's called extinction. Now, put the dog away. Great, you had a good run today, champ. Now, bring him back out tomorrow, and now you extinguish the dog. I mean, yesterday you were like ding ding ding, and the dog's like, no, I'm sorry, I'm not going to salivate to that. What am I, an idiot? Put him away, bring him back today, and go ding ding ding, and the dog starts to drool. What? Wait a minute, yesterday in other words, extinction. Just because the animal stopped responding does not mean the animal forgot that ding 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 was associated with me. Okay? And so this spontaneous recovery always happens. And this is a logical thing, because things that used to be true in the past often come back true again, just because it's, you know, something was true and then it wasn't true, and sometimes it comes back. I mean, the world the world goes in circles, right? So why not? And so really some interesting stuff, and he did radically large numbers of different things. And here in fact is a picture of the acquisition, that is the stages of acquisition, extinction, and spontaneous recovery, and showing how the responding would occur. It would grow across acquisition, it would decrease across extinction, and then with a pause in the middle there, it would spontaneously recover. Okay. Now, Pavlov had one more little wacky thing to say here, and it's really pretty cool. See, as I said, he was a physiologist, first and foremost. Okay? Now, I'm going to explain this picture to you, but this picture will make a whole heck of a lot more sense if you run a slideshow with the PowerPoints, because it travels, it moves. But I have to show you a static image here because of the nature of this recording device. So Pavlov described the brain as a series of excitation and inhibition, or maybe in words that you're familiar with from other courses, approach and avoidance. Okay, approach and avoidance. And so what Pavlov would do is he would say, for example, he would put up a black square. When a black square is up, then black square, meat. Black square, meat. Black square, meat. Black square, meat. And the dog's like, okay, this is cool, I got it. Black square, meat, and it drools. Okay. Now, red circle. I said black square. I meant black circle. All right. When the red circle comes up, never meat. Okay? So, black square, meat. Black square, meat. Red square. I keep saying square. Black circle, meat. Black circle, meat. Red circle, nothing. Red circle, nothing. Over and over and over. And very quickly, the dog has got it worked out. Red circle, Dog sits there. Black circle, the dog drools. Easy. Then what Pavlov does is he makes that red circle a little bit darker. So instead of it being that far left red circle, he'll do the next one over. And again, the dog's got no problem. Black circle, meat. This little red circle, no meat. All right. But Pavlov just keeps on making that left side, that circle a little darker. You see this series of circles, and at some point you see the furthest two to the right here, it's like black circle, meat, and then that incredibly dark colored thing there that's next to it equals no meat. And yeah, they are different, but the dogs don't know what to do. They've got this approach avoidance. They've got this. There's excitation in response to the black circle, and there's inhibition in response to the red circle, but the dog can't tell what the hell's going on. And so what happened was Pavlov described the dogs as having nervous systems that were either dominated by their excitation or dominated by their inhibition, because in response to this problem, some dogs would just get angry. They would just bite the cage. It would just get super aggressive. And some dogs would just quit. They would just lay down and go, screw this, I quit. And according to Pavlov, this indicated something about the primary nature of their nervous system. And he was a little bit wacky on this, but he felt that you could define the primary nature of the nervous system based on the way that whether the excitatory processes in learning or the inhibitory processes in learning dominated. Wacky. We'll come back next time and we'll talk a little bit about, we'll move into Watson. We'll talk some Baby Albert. I know some of you guys are big Baby Albert fans, so we'll get into Baby Albert in the next slideshow. See you then.